SBF funneled $10 billion of user funds from his centralized crypto exchange FTX to the trading arm of his empire, Alameda. There, the top brass made risky bets and caused a widespread meltdown. SBF has since been replaced by an interim CEO, John Ray, who was also sent in to clean up the ENRON mess. And in his first filing, he said that the FTX case is much worse than he's seen in his entire career. A bigger mess than Enron. This week, we've seen a whirlwind of opinions and speculation about whether or not Sam Bankman Fried's going to do any time behind bars. There's even a new cryptocurrency called Jail SBF, or the JSBF token, whose creators claim their mission is to educate and to create awareness in crypto. So is he going to jail or not? Let's dive in and evaluate what we know. Thanks to Radix for sponsoring this video, more on them later. A majority of the speculation around SBF's involvement in the collapse so far has come from crypto Twitter. That is, except the New York Times fluff piece about Sam. But anyway, finally, after a few days of relative silence, more mainstream media outlets are making noise. An opinion piece by the editorial board of the Washington Post claimed yesterday that the FTX scheme had all the appearances of an old-fashioned scam. FTX's customers likely thought their money was being safely held, but the exchange apparently passed it off to use for speculation. One of the most recent developments is a petition started by Ripple defense lawyer John Dayton's Crypto Law, which has already received thousands of responses asking for the SEC chairman Gary Gensler's role in the whole FTX collapse to be investigated. But why does this matter for DeFi? Well, the past fortnight and the wide range of opinions emerging demonstrate why perspective is very important. And if we take a step back to consider the FTX collapse from the perspective of the victims, the individuals who may have been looking to deposit funds into DeFi protocols, or potential investors into the space, and most certainly from a regulatory perspective, we see that perceptions of crypto as a store of value, or even as an investment vehicle, have been shaken. Ironically, we know that SBF called for regulations to prevent precisely this type of event from occurring. So why, given that SBF was testifying in Congress to help shape new regulations, did those regulators not step in to prevent such a catastrophic collapse and the subsequent domino effect we're seeing, which caused millions of users' funds to be lost? Now, we could look for the answer within the world of DeFi. But actually, we need to consider that SBF's empire was built around a centralized crypto exchange FTX, which appropriated traditional financial mechanisms like offshoring and applied them to very loosely regulated international investment environments, and he did all of this from the safety of his Bahama registry. And just briefly, the Bahamas sounds like a beautiful, sunny place to have a penthouse and build an enterprise from. It certainly is. But there's a lot more to the Bahamas than sunny beaches, because until late into 2018, the Bahamas were on the FATF grey list as a jurisdiction with strategic deficiencies in their anti-money laundering regulations. The Bahamas are still listed among the top tax havens in the world, and the financial services sector in the Bahamas is worth over $250 billion. They owe this figure largely to the international offshore services. A US report even named the Bahamas specifically as a money laundering jurisdiction. They claimed that the small island nation located close to Florida is exposed to a wide range of money laundering and terrorist financing threats and vulnerabilities. Returning to SBF's crypto regulation efforts, CoinDesk reported that the legislation he proposed essentially amounted to a de facto ban on DeFi in the US because, well, decentralized exchanges like Uniswap wouldn't be able to comply. The bill was seen by many as an effort to push users away from DEXs and towards centralized exchanges, including his own, FTX. And before we carry on, let's hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Radix has built the world's first full stack for Web3 that's designed to radically change DeFi for the better. From near unlimited scalability and unparalleled security to an asset-oriented smart contract language built for DeFi. Radix is on a mission to decentralize the $400 trillion financial system without the billion-dollar security hacks. Interested? Join RadFi 2022 on December 8th to learn more. Head to the description below this video to grab your free tickets now. Now back to the story. More damning evidence about SBF undermining DeFi was released by Adam Cochran, who tweeted an 82-part thread in which he demonstrated how the FTX and Alameda relationship had for years misused customer funds illegally. He went on to show that if FTX took user funds and used them for anything other than what the users had agreed to, this is, quote, legally theft. Adam Cochran also rebutted ex-Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison's claim that there was a secret pool of assets, which meant the insolvency claims were unfounded. He did that by tracing and mapping every cold wallet associated with FTX, showing again that he thinks that what happened was clearly frauding the FTX users. Now, there's plenty of support for the idea that SBF wasn't the innocent golden child he was painted to be, but instead a calculated crook who intentionally misused user funds and made risky bets. New CEO John Ray's statement that in his 40 years of restructuring experience, he's never seen a more complete failure, which he claims happened at the hands of a small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals, is, quote, unprecedented. To add to the uncertainty about SBF's future, it's rare to have unanimous consent on anything in the crypto world, and the FTX saga is definitely no exception to this. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are plenty of speculators on both sides of the SBF to jail discussion. What needs to happen, though, for any sort of prosecution to emerge from the investigations currently being carried out by the Justice Department, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, is for Sam's actions to be linked clearly and without doubt to a specific crime such as securities fraud. In the past week, we've seen a slew of information being released from whistleblowers claiming Sam himself built the back door, and he actively sought to continue the over-leveraged trading with user funds to cover the hole in Alameda's balance sheet, and he did that by firing staff who dissented. This certainly goes against SBF's claims that they got overconfident and careless. The good news, for anyone hoping to get any legal clarity from this, is that according to Forbes India, legal experts say that even SBF's tweets could be used in future court cases. Michael Saylor's assessment is that SBF was using stolen counterfeit money to lobby against and undermine the crypto industry. Another take on SBF's alleged fraud comes from Edgy the DeFi Edge, who reminds us of the Tornado Cash developer who's still in jail without formal charges, while SBF is free in the Bahamas, so close to home, so far from jail. There can and likely will be plenty more speculation around the proceedings, but the legal opinion and court considerations are going to be the deciding factors in this case. According to legal professionals we contacted, the crimes which SBF will likely be investigated for are wire fraud, securities fraud, theft, embezzlement, and money laundering. But again, we don't have any information at this point as to how far these investigations have come. Federal prosecutor Samson Enza said, what this will boil down to is whether deliberate lies to convince depositors or investors to part with their assets. He also asked whether statements made that were false, where the maker of those statements knew they were false, and made it with the intent to deceive the investor. So the answer to those questions is ultimately what the newly launched State Department investigation will be looking at. The FTX collapse and subsequent revelations that CeFi's poster child is nothing more than a fraud have shaken trust in the industry. They've potentially set us back years on the development and adoption curves. Millions of users got burnt, and even celebs and politicians were damaged in the fiasco. We can certainly expect to see growing focus around the entire discussion as to whether or not FTX and Alameda executives, and indeed SBF himself, are going to face any jail time. We'll continue to cut through all the speculation and dissect the facts as they become available. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tune in for tomorrow's weekly recap.